The following is an exclusive presentation of WI Garden Media, the voice of Garden Talk Radio. Coming up on the program today, we're going to discuss practical gardening, as well as good mulch and bad mulches. Our guest is author and TV host of Growing a Greener World on PBS. Joe Lampo will be with us, and we'll answer your garden questions. The hour is full, so join us.
You are listening to the most informationally packed hour of garden-focused radio in the country and on the internet with your host, husband and wife team Joey and Holly Baird. This is the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show.
And welcome to another edition of the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show. Happy you've allowed us to be part of your day. I am your host, Joey Baird. Beside me is my wife, co-host, best friend, and gardening partner,
Holly Baird.
This program is for you, about you, to help grow your garden better, to maintain your landscape, grow healthier trees, make your grass look greener, as well as preserving what you grow. Happy you're tuning in, whether you're doing that on one of the 18 and FM frequencies broadcasting our program here in 2024, through a radio app, through our parent website, which is the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com, underneath the Season 8 tab at the top of the page, podcast replay, or in-studio video replay. Thank you so much. You want to be part of the program? Hey, you can do that by sending us an email to gardentalkradio@gmail.com. That's gardentalkradio@gmail.com. Or you can give us a call 24/7, 365, anytime at 1-800-927-SHOW. That's 1-800-927-7469. Leave a message if we can't get to you, and we will get an answer to your question. Well, before we get in the program, Holly, it is time for this week's Joke of the Week.
All right, here's our joke of the week.
Okay.
I just saw two birds stuck together in the garden. I think they're Velcros.
Crows?
Yeah, Velcros stuck
there you
together.
go. This week's joke is brought to you by Rescue.com.
American-made rescue products keep your family, home, and yard protected from the pest insects like wasps, hornets, yellow jackets, fire ants, flies, ants, and more. Learn more at rescue.com. It's rescue.com.
Caw, caw, caw. Woo! There you go. Practical gardening. What is practical gardening, Holly? It's really just the simplicity of gardening.
Pretty much. That's what it is. It's like the bare bones, down to earth, down to nature, whatever you want to call it, gardening.
Because we have overcomplicated the simplicity of what gardening should be. Yeah, there is some intertwined things of, if this happens, then you should do that, or maybe you should invest in a high quality fill in the blank in order to get longevity, that you're not replacing it every 6 months or every growing season.
It's kind of like your great-grandparents or even your grandparents, depending on how old you are, gardening. So like this,
well, they made good quality equipment back then. A shovel, a rake, a hoe that lasted.
Well, I think if you invest properly, you can still have good equipment.
Well, true. But the quality of some of the things in which used to be good is not so great anymore because of make it cheap, make it quick, make them buy again. The rebuying aspect of it. So, place to garden. Basics of gardening.
Right. So you got to think about where you want to garden. That's one of the things is, do you want to keep having to replant stuff or regrow stuff in other places? No. So it's a good idea to figure out where you want to put this garden. Now, if you do have to move it, you have to move it. That's okay. But you want to look at sunlight. Where's the sunlight? You want to think about...
And for people who already have an established garden, this is practical, because if you want to expand or change things up, raised beds from a ground or addition to, let's say, straw bales or containers in other places on the property, these are information that you need to be aware of that you may already know of, but you're just not, I want to do it. I want to get it done. Oh, I should think about that before I do that.
Right. Or is this a practical place to garden? You might have the spot in your yard that seems like it would be perfect for gardening, but then it's too close to your neighbor or something.
Or when it rains, it becomes a little duck pond.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah, it looks great until it rains.
Or, your dog is partial to the area. Mm-hmm. Do you want to make your dog sad? Whatever.
Or, that issues with contamination
potentially
with that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's that. Then soil. So you have to think about soil. Now, this means that you might have good soil. You might have not so good soil.
But how do you know?
So you should get a soil test.
Soilsavvy.com.
Or perhaps you decide not to go that route and you just decide to put in raised beds, or you do like a straw bale gardening, or just grow in containers.
Import soil in.
Yeah.
Quality soil. Not bag soil, but bulk soil from your local independent garden center. It's just a search click away to find that wherever you may be in the Milwaukee area. Blue Ribbon Organics, we would recommend, where they can transport many yards of good quality raised bed mix or compost in order to get your plants growing. It's an investment. Yes, it's going to cost you, but it's much in the long run. Do you want to put all the effort into working the ground and buying excessive fertilizer and doing all these things to get a very poor, dismal, disappointing crop when you've put so much effort in, or invest in quality equipment, being soil, where you will have very good plant growth and productive fruit harvest or vegetable harvest off of it? And that's not something you have to do year after year. You invest 1 year and you can get multiple years out of that by continuing healthy soil building in your raised bed.
Absolutely. And yeah, you can do that. Another thing to think about is weeds. Now, just you're not going to know how many weeds you're possibly going to get when you first start a garden, but you want to have perhaps a weed plan. If you are, a busy person and you want to maintain a garden, but you don't want to deal with weeds because you're like, I travel a lot for work or blah, blah, blah.
It's not worth the time.
Yeah, it's not worth the time, whatever. That's when you might want to consider something like a raised bed, straw bales, containers, what have you, because your ability to have less weeds is higher.
A weed barrier. We'll talk about mulch in the second segment, but there's multiple mulches. Mulches does not equal no weeds.
Right, and I think that's a common misconception, that just because you mulch that it's going to smother all the weeds and you will have no weeds. There are methods of gardening where you will have less weeds, but there is no weed situation unless you are growing like in hydroponic.
Or you're using a lot of chemicals to...
That too.
I mean, Nat Green Products has a all-natural weed killer. It's a non-selective, but it's not the glyphosate, but it does kill weeds. But like anything, it's not a fix-all. There has to be a balance.
Right. There does have to be a balance. And that's something to keep in mind, is that you can, whatever you put into your garden will have an impact. Some will have a negative impact more, and some will have a positive impact more. But either way, you're changing the chemistry and the ecosystem of what you're doing to your garden, for better or for worse.
Practical gardening, basics of gardening, simplicity of gardening. We can throw in free items for gardening on that. And this is whatever you think it can work. And it's up to you whether you want it to be eye-pleasing or practical or a little bit of both. You can have the ugliest trellis in the world, but it can grow 55 pounds of cucumbers, and who the heck cares what it looks like? But if you're in a situation, or you yourself chooses to have a more appealing look to your garden, then investment of specific products may be needed in order to get that look that you're wanting, in order to appease yourself or somebody else. And
like an HOA.
But a preacher once said that I was in attendance of, we buy things we don't need, we can't afford to impress people we don't like. So keep that in mind.
No, but like also people will do things for a certain aesthetic because it pleases them.
For them, it's fine. But if you're doing it for somebody else,
right,
to try to get some gratification that, they're happy with what I've done, you need to reevaluate some things. This is not a therapy session, but it's just
But that's the thing, especially with the younger generations, they focus on
what other people think.
No, like an aesthetic.
Okay.
There's different names for these aesthetics, whatever.
I want a pink trellis. Well, paint yourself pink trellis.
They could have a pink trellis or all pink.
If you're doing it for yourself, that's fine. That's what I'm getting at.
That's what they do. They do it for themselves, or maybe they set up like a little gnome thing because it appeals to them, and then they know that when they go out there, they feel better.
Are gnomes the ones that stay by the bridge and
those are trolls?
Those are trolls. Okay.
Yeah. Anyway, let me get back to this explanation, especially because I'm sure we have some people who are like, I don't know what these young people are doing. So they focus on the aesthetic sometimes because it signals things in their brain like positivity. And so they're like
a positive dopamine. Yeah.
And so then they're like, you know what? I don't know if I like this task, but I have this cute little gnome here and a pink trellis, and a duck statue, and now I'm going to go out into the garden and spend some time with them, and then it triggers that positive feeling in their brain, and then it associates it with gardening and pulling weeds. And it's been shown and proven that this is a positive thing. So if you're like, these young kids are crazy or they're just too much or whatever, it's actually science.
Okay.
Brain science.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. So, if you're doing it for yourself, fine and dandy, have at it. But it's anything that you want to create, whether it's the chicken wire wrapped on the railing of a baby crib or a triangle trellis or a pyramid trellis that you've created with some logs that you've wrapped juke rope around and plants are crawling up that. Have at it.
Just some random metal mesh you found
I've
on the side
seen
of the
where
road.
people have taken and burnt, and do it at your own discretion, burnt a box spring and then put fence post and put the box spring vertical and use that as...
Didn't we do something like that?
We used the bottom of a baby crib frame,
crib.
not the box spring itself.
We did burn...
A Christmas tree, a pine tree. Yeah.
That thing went up so fast.
Yeah. Gives you appreciation of why... how dangerous it is to have it in your house.
Absolutely.
And then 100 years ago, to put live candles, real candles on the tree.
That's nuts.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those people, yeah. I'm glad we've grown Advanced, yeah, for sure.
Well, advancing to a product or products from waltonsinc.com, it might be a good move as well.
Yeah, we were brought to you today by Walton's Inc. We know you care about where your food comes from. Think about the meat, whether it be something where you need equipment, seasoning, supplies to make sausage. They also have meatgistics.com to help educate people on the hows and whys of meat processing, as well as a community of over 15,000 users who will help give their opinion and guidance on meat processing issues. And they have a full line of mixers, stuffers, sausage stuffers,
everything but the meat,
seasonings. So waltonsinc.com, and if you use code GROW50 you can get 10% off your order of $50 or more.
There you go. Make jerky, or if you just need seasonings for the barbecue grill, or in-house cooking, they have all of that. Hey, hang out with us. When we return, we'll be discussing good mulches and bad mulches. We talked a little bit about it, how it can help suppress weeds, not eliminate them. It's a very good thing to have in your garden for multiple reasons. You're tuned in to the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show.
Got a question for Joey and Holly? Send it via email anytime to gardentalkradio@gmail.com.
Mantis tillers, the premium long-lasting gas-powered tillers, are the perfect solution for any garden. This Mantis machine is available with 2 or 4 cycle engines with a 19-inch or 16-inch tilling width. Your DIY companion in your garden and your lawn converts easily for edging, aerating, and more with optional attachments. Find details at mantis.com. Make hand watering easy and enjoyable with HoseLink retractable hose reels. No more tripping over hoses, kinks, tangles, and avoiding rolling the hose up. With an automatic retractable HoseLink saves you time and effort manually coiling up your hose, leaving your focus on the things that will bring you joy in your garden. Available in multiple colors and lengths, you'll be sure to find the retractable hose that works for you. To find out more and to buy online via hoselink.com, use coupon code radio10 for $10 discount, valid starting April 1st through May 31st.
Soil Diva Liquid Microbe Stimulant Spray improves the health of your plants you work hard to grow, stimulates the natural enzymes, and increases beneficial soil bacteria. Go to soildiva.net. Soildiva.net.
Protect your plants from damage with the 3-in-1 Plant Guard and Special Blend Fertilizer. Visit ivorganics.com. Use promo code radio10 to save 10% off your order.
Rootmaker starts your plants off right and keeps them going through harvest. From their seed starting trays with an innovative design that air prunes the roots to their large variety of grow bags, 1 to 60 gallons. Their products will provide you the harvest you've never seen before. Visit rootmaker.com. Use coupon code ROOT24 to save 15% off your order at rootmaker.com. That coupon code is ROOT24 to save 15% off your order at rootmaker.com. Watering is the key to a healthy garden, but it can take up a lot of your time. Water less with Soil Moist. Grow beautiful plants with less water. Soil moist polymers reduce your plant's watering by 50%, reduce transplant shock and soil compaction, and are effective in your soil for 3 to 5 years. It is an effective watering management aid that is ideal for internal and external plantings, such as trees, shrubs, containers, baskets, flower beds, vegetables, and turf. Soil Moist acts as a form of insurance for your plants and is environmentally friendly. It is easy to apply at the time of planting or transplanting. Spend more time doing what you enjoy and let Soil Moist work smarter for you. Bolster your plant's nutrient and water uptake with Soil Moist. Enhance microbial and plant growth. No need to spend extra time worrying about watering your plants. Easy to follow instructions right on the label. To find where to purchase and to see all their products, contact your local garden center or visit soilmoist.com.
Jung Seed Company is a family-owned and operated seed company since 1907 with the largest selection of seeds and plants online. Use coupon code 10TG24 to save 10% off your order at jungseed.com. The coupon code is 10TG24 at jungseed.com for 10% off.
Welcome back to the Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show. Happy you've taken time out of your day to allow us to be part of it. We're going to get into good and bad mulches, but first, a word from our good friends from Honey Bee Healthy.
Since 2000, Honey Bee Healthy Inc. has helped beekeepers maintain healthy and thriving hives. Attracting pollinators to your garden this year is as simple as hanging a hummingbird feeder with a mixture of sugar, water, and Honey Bee Healthy Original. Don't be alarmed if you see birds, bees, and butterflies dining together.
That's what you want.
Feeder. Yes. Pollinators coexist peacefully. Honey Bee Healthy Inc. is offering a 10% discount of an 8-ounce bottle of Honey Bee Healthy Original to the show's listeners. Enter discount code BEEGARDEN at checkout. For more information, mixing instructions, and more, visit honeybeehealthy.com.
Besides the word free for gardeners, I think mulch is a secondary word that is used about as much as free. Mulch is important for a variety of different reasons.
Wouldn't like seeds be one?
Work with me here.
Okay, fine.
Work with me. Mulch has a multiple of advantages to your garden. There is good mulches and there are bad mulches. Mulches, let's go over some of the good reasons. They suppress the weeds. They don't eliminate them. What suppression means is they reduce some of the weeds that would come up if the soil was bare. When you put mulch over top of it, it reduces the plants don't have the sunlight and the photosynthesis that's required. And it does smother out some of those weeds. In addition, it holds moisture in, less watering. Plants have more water, less diseases or problems such as blossom end rot or a hollow heart on potatoes because water is available to the plant to uptake and not the plant is stressed to find moisture. It can cool the soil by up to 5 degrees on super hot days, which means a cooler root system is a happier plant and holds more moisture, which is the uptake, and the plant's happier. So that's just some of many good benefits that mulch has. Let's go over the first, Holly, the good mulches mulch in which you can
I want to talk about bad
Let's
mulch.
go to bad. Okay, we're going to go bad first.
Bad mulch. So the first one is not necessarily bad for if you're going to put it on like flower beds or whatever, but it's bad if you have dogs. So which is it's called cocoa mulch, and dogs obviously, I mean cats too, can't have chocolate, so it can make them very sick if you have, dogs.
It can be fatal.
Yeah, fatal. And then
also with that cocoa mulch, if it gets wet or whatever, it can mold and cause problems there as well.
It can mold. So I wouldn't recommend the cocoa mulch personally. It does smell good.
Certain situations for certain applications, it's okay, but know what you're getting into.
And spreading it, you just get all the mulch dust stuck to you. Mm-hmm. So that's fun too. So then the next one is like tires or rubber mulch, where
the material you have on playgrounds now.
Yeah. Not when we were kids. We're just cold cement. So
made you a better person.
It did. Burning my legs on a slide, toughened me up. So
tell us about your playground stories at gardentalkradio@gmail.com. Tire, because it's not biodegradable. It's not good. It can release toxins into your soil, and it's okay if you like grow things in colorful tires that are not edible, but we don't recommend growing things in tires that are edible. And the same application applies, or reasons apply if you're wanting to use it as mulch. And it can get very hot too, number one.
Yeah,
it's not
sure.
It's not good for that either. Now, dyed mulches.
Yeah, dyed mulches, if you're going to use that around edible food, a lot of that stuff can seep into your soil, and that's basically the problem.
Another one that's not necessarily a bad mulch, but not necessarily a good mulch, but it's it's specific to a situation, is gravel or pea stone. Really good around decorative areas, rose bushes, that type of thing. But if you're going to if you're going to utilize it in a edible landscape, you need to have something that will break down, so you're not mixing it into the soil if you have a raised bed.
Now, if you have like asparagus bush, berry bushes, you could use that. You
could, yes.
I probably wouldn't recommend it, but it is an option. So
let's say if it's free and it's available, and you're going to, it can apply it in precise areas that you're not going to inhibit the growth of the asparagus or the raspberry or blueberry or whatever, then that's the way to go. So, also bad mulches, it's any mulch that you don't know the source of. There are municipalities in which you can get wood chips or you can get free mulch, fill in the blank. It's a pile, you don't know what's in it, you go and pick it up, and the wood chips are just ground up everything. Black walnut to pine trees to just shrubs to junk. And it could be, you don't know. Right, and it could be have some level of toxicity that can damage or eradicate or toxify your soil.
Right, absolutely. So some good mulch is straw. And so there's a difference between straw and hay. And you could use hay. Hay might have a lot of
grass,
seeds. Yeah, grass seeds. So we would recommend using straw versus hay.
Now, there is the whole conversation of, is the straw organic? Has it been sprayed with something? Again, know the source, ask the questions, because every situation is very different to whether or not it will work.
Right. And then leaves. Leaves are important because they can add nutrients. They will add nutrients back to your soil. Obviously, they're pretty free. They are free.
If you stockpile them, and you may not have any now. Yeah.
You could stockpile them, but that is an option. Especially in the fall, you can, really layer up your garden bed, and they can
just make a giant pile in the back corner.
Absolutely.
And use them through as you need them. Chemical-free, seed-free grass clippings. What does that mean, Holly?
It means that if you yourself hire somebody to come to your house and spray something onto your grass that's a chemical like
weed and feed.
Yeah, something like that. And then the grass grows and you're like, I'm going to use these grass clippings as mulch. That's a problem. And
you don't have to do this. People's been conditioned to go, oh, it's spring. We got to go buy that turf builder that has all that stuff in it to make the grass really green. That turf builder has, in most cases, a persistent herbicide, which is 2,4-D, which is a broadleaf chemical that will kill anything broadleaf, your dandelions, your lamb's quarter. And in the garden, you have all kinds of broadleaf. You got beans, you got eggplants, you got all.
I think we should talk about this. How it's almost May,
yes,
or soon. There's no mow May,
yeah,
where you don't mow your grass because of the pollinators and dandelions and other what you might consider weeds feeds those pollinators. So a lot of people will not mow their grass in May. Now, if you think that's crazy, you couldn't stand it. A lot of times people will not mow like a large patch, and that's an option as well. So just something to think about.
Shredded paper may not be eye appealing, but it does work quite well, and you can get rid of all those bills and junk that you have. Now, some people will advise don't use the glossy paper or the envelopes that have the clear plastic. Others will say everything goes in the shredder, everything goes in the garden. The level of toxification that we come encounter with every day is not in comparison to what little bit might be in the garden soil because of a couple pieces of fine plastic or the gloss. All the ink is soy-based now. It's not a chemical-based, so you can get rid of a lot of stuff, or you can just mix it in your compost pile, too. and it will dissipate, or your compost bin, your aero bin. You can throw it all in there at correct ratios and turn it into compost. Pine needles also is a form of great mulch. It is not going to make your soil acidic. True, on the pH scale, it is acidic on the tree, but by the time it breaks down in your garden, it has neutralized, and you don't have to worry about in the time frame of the breaking down process, it's not going to acidify your garden. You can also include that into your compost bin, about 10% of the volume for pine needles.
There you go. So pine needles definitely is something that you can use, and we would recommend it. One that we didn't touch on is sand. Some people will try to use sand as mulch. In
a container, it can work. But again, you don't want to do this in a large application because you're going to mix it in the soil. And if you get too much sand in your compost or in your raised beds, it's going to become too porous and you're not going to be able to retain moisture for your plants to grow. If you're in a container, and we've got a couple of videos on this on the website, that we put about an inch of sand around the top of the container. I don't have a clue what we were growing at that point. But the benefit is when you go to the beach, the top of the sand is dry, but you scoot back about 2 or 3 inches. What's there? Moist, wet sand. So it can hold moisture. Is it practical? Probably not. Is it fun to experiment with the kids or the grandkids? Absolutely. But if you are going to get sand from a local beach, do it at your own risk, probably at night, and you can take it home and play with the experiment of growing it or using it as a mulch in a container.
Or, during the middle of a weekday.
Yeah. And 7 o'clock on a Monday morning, not too many people's at the beach.
Not that I have ever done that.
Wood bark.
Yeah, this was your suggestion, the thinly shredded wood bark.
Yeah, thinly shredded wood bark, natural, can be good in the application of a permanent or perennial bed. Tulips, raspberries, asparagus, fill in the blank, flower bed. This will work very well. When you get into when you get the wood mulch that is big chunks, almost like kindling or splits, when you're trying to start a fire, that would be ideal, but not to utilize in the garden because you do want some porous. You want the wood chips not to be a solid mat, and you do want them to over time break down, and you need to reapply the wood chips every 2 or 3 years as it breaks down and feeds the soil. You get big chunks, they're never going to break down.
No, one thing we didn't talk about was weed barrier or weed cloth.
The plastic,
whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Which we will be experimenting with this year. It is a synthetic material, is not biodegradable. They do make biodegradable weed barrier, but ours is not. And you lay it out on top of the bed, preferably on top of your irrigation system, and then you cut strategic holes in order to plant, and the irrigation beneath it from dripworks.com will water the plant, and the barrier of the synthetic plastic, essentially is what it is, tightly woven, will prevent much of the weeds from coming up. Probably the only weeds you're going to come up is around the areas in which you've cut in order to transplant or plant your seeds in. On top of that synthetic weed barrier, you can put straw or chemical-free grass clippings or whatever in order to try to mediate some of that heat that is going to be absorbed. It's not not frowned upon. It's not recommended, but it can be something in which you can help dissipate some of that heat that would be absorbed into the soil.
Absolutely.
Well, with summer soon to be here, it is warming up in many parts of the country, and you are going to start dealing with those beetles and grubs in your garden.
Yeah, with summer just around the corner, it's time to start thinking about controlling these beetles and grubs. There's always, talk about the Japanese beetles in the Midwest, especially, and other areas.
Now it's everywhere. It's not even just the Midwest.
That's true. So Grub Gone.
Grub Gone can be applied directly to the turf of your garden or around ornamentals to control the grubs and lessen the impact those beetles will have on your yard this summer. Easy to apply with any chemical spreader or irrigate it right into the soil. Specifically targeted to attack the grubs and beetle invaders without harming the beneficial insects such as bees, butterflies, and ladybugs.
Yeah. And it's the only non-chemical that works. You can find out more at phyllombioproducts.com. That's PHYLLOM bioproducts.com.
Hang out with us when we return. Host of PBS's Growing a Greener World and author, our good friend Joe Lampo will be with us. You're tuned in to the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show.
Have a garden question? Give Joey and Holly a call now or anytime 24/7. Just dial 1-800-927-SHOW. If you can't get through, leave a message and they will call you back. Call now 1-800-927-SHOW.
Dig planting holes from a comfortable standing position. Step, twist, pull, and plant. Visit ProPlugger.com.
Have insects such as aphids or fungal gnats invaded your plants? Fight back with Summit Year-Round Spray Oil and Summit Mosquito Bits. Organic Summit Year-Round Spray Oil kills insect pests on indoor and outdoor plants. All natural mosquito bits kill fungal gnats larvae in container plants. Both products are harmless to people, plants, and wildlife. Summit Year-Round Spray Oil and Summit Mosquito Bit are available at garden centers, hardware stores, and at SummitResponsibleSolutions.com.
Garden like a pro in 3 easy steps and receive customized fertilizer recommendations for your garden or lawn. Soil Savvy helps you determine what nutrients your plants need to thrive. Never again over-apply nutrients they don't need. A patented process that makes you a smart gardener. To get your soil test kit, go to mysoilsavvy.com.
If you could double the life of your raised bed boxes by sealing the wood with a clear, non-toxic wood preservative, would you? Well, now you can with a clear, penetrating product called Internal Wood Stabilizer. It's 100% non-toxic and easy to apply. Seal your untreated wood surfaces, even chicken coops, by spraying on Internal Wood Stabilizer. It's invisible, seals the wood from the inside out, and never wears off. Recommended by organic gardening experts, Internal Wood Stabilizer. Check it out at timberprocoatingsusa.com.
Transform your exterior wood surfaces with Rubio Monocoat's new Duro Grit. Say goodbye to multiple coats thanks to Duro Grit's incredible patented one-layer technology. Enjoy vibrant, durable color that won't peel or flake even in the harshest conditions. Rubio Monocoat Duro Grit is tomorrow's UV protection for exterior wood. Learn more at RubioMonocoatUSA.com. Use code JOEY for 10% off. That's RubioMonoCoatUSA.com. Pomona's Universal Pectin is a high-quality pectin that gels reliably with low amounts of any sweetener. If you're trying to reduce the amount of sugar in your diet, you'll love Pomona's Universal Pectin. Now you can make healthy homemade jams and jellies sweetened to your taste. You can use sugar or honey to sweeten. Pomona's Universal Pectin keeps indefinitely when stored in an airtight container. Easy to use, versatile, and comes with directions and recipes in every box. Find out more and where to buy at PomonaPectin.com. Also available at natural food stores and online.
Water the right amount for the right time with the Soaker Hose from Eaton Brothers. Soaker Hose is one of the best ways to water without drowning your plants. And with a timer, it becomes a set it and forget it way to keep your plants healthy and happy. Soaker Hose is designed to work at low pressure, seeping water slowly and steadily over the course of 15 to 20 minutes so the water can percolate the soil and get to the roots. Designed and manufactured to be lead-free so no harmful chemicals or odors are added to your water supply. Visit EatonBrothers.com for more information and to buy. Straw bale gardening is all the rage. Get your bale started easily with the Bale Buster Straw Bale Conditioning Formula. This is the only product that has been specifically formulated for use in straw bale gardening. Each unit contains 250 million colony-forming units of trichoderma, fungi, and Bacillus bacteria. In addition to the fertilizer itself, produces fantastic results with a bountiful production of vegetable crops. Start with the best to get the best, traditional or organic formula. Take the guesswork out of conditioning your straw bale. Go to balebuster.com to find out more. Welcome back to the Garden with Joy and Holly radio show. Thank you for being with us today. Holly, let's go to the hotline and bring in our guest.
As one of the country's most recognized and trusted personalities in gardening and green living, that passion for living a greener life is evident to a nationwide audience who watches Joe Lampo in his current role as creator, executive producer, and host of the multiple award-winning PBS series, Growing a Greener World, which now has a new feature exclusively online. He is also an author, blogger, and more. Welcome to the program, Joe.
Hey, Holly. Hey, Joey. Nice to be here.
Well, thank you for making a return to the program. We're always happy when you're able to etch out a little time for us on our show. And I'll start with this. Many people have trees on their property, and can tree trimming still be done now as we get into the warmer portions of the year, or have we missed that window and we're going to do more damage if we say, I really want that limb and I cut it?
Yeah, you can do it now. The worst time to prune a tree is when it's we're coming into fall and things are starting to go dormant. But if you were to make a cut then, and then you had some warm weather come into play, it might trick the tree into thinking that it's time to, put on new growth as it happens as we come into spring. But in the fall, it really is the weather that's coming is colder. And so that new growth can be nipped back, and that can cause open wounds and opportunities for improper healing or pest and disease issues that may work their way in. So there's far greater risk to a tree if you were to prune late in the season than at this time of year when everything is really gearing up for new growth. It's fine to make a cut now, whether you're making a healing cut or you're taking out a diseased limb or you're trying to reduce the size. Now, just keep in mind, when you make a cut, oftentimes that does stimulate new growth. So if that's what you want, this would be a great time to make that cut. So just be mindful of what the purpose behind why you're making that cut as you think about the timing of it.
What is a common mistake, or one of the most frequent mistakes you see people make when trimming trees?
I don't have to think about this one for a second before I answer it. It's tree topping. It's butchering the tree, basically. Now, done properly, I mean, it's been an ancient practice in Europe forever with pollarding and other ways to cut a tree. But here, we don't do it the right way. Not that there really is a right way. We just do it the wrong way. And we just take a beautiful hardwood tree and we give it a haircut right across, straight across. And then what happens is that tree just realizes it lost a massive amount of its biomass, which produces the photosynthesis to provide the energy from the sun to feed itself. And now it's gone. So the first things that it does, it sends out these suckers or these water sprouts that are weakly joined to the main part of the tree, but they have to grow rapidly and produce new leaves and branches in order to send out new opportunities to photosynthesize. And the funny thing, the irony is that people oftentimes top their trees because they think it's a way to improve the safety of a potential branch that may someday fall on their house because Johnny Chainsaw came around in his pickup truck and said, Mrs. Jones, it's time to top your trees because you don't want those falling on your house, do you? So there's that fear. But what happens is when Johnny Chainsaw makes that cut and those water sprouts come up, those are so weakly attached to the main part of the branch, they're nowhere near as strong as the original branches. And now they are more likely to fall off in a windstorm or something like that and potentially land on the house. So you've got a recurring problem that probably causes the tree to get topped every year to remove those suckers. And then within about 3 years, the tree is typically dead because trees are not made to be topped like that. And they can't sustain themselves with that kind of abuse year after year. And within a few years, they give up the goat and they're done. And it's a pitiful sight to see a top tree that within a few years goes from this beautiful, massive oak tree, for example, to a dead stump in the yard. And Joey, if I had a nickel for every time I've seen that, I'd be a wealthy man right now. But, the International Association of Arboriculture will tell you do not top a tree. It's wrong in every way. Now, this is not to be confused with removing a branch that is in risk of falling or is dead or diseased or dying or crossing or whatever. I mean, there are times where you do that, but that's appropriate. Topping just because you're afraid that someday a branch may fall or you want to reduce the size of a mature tree because it's too big, well, it's a shame that you planted a tree that was too big for that area anyway. So you would do proper thinning cuts, or you hire or consult with an arborist, pay them $100 for their time for an hour to give you good information, and then follow the advice of the arborist rather than, Johnny Chainsaw, who's showing up and just giving you this recommendation because they get paid when they make cuts on your tree. That's not the same
who
thing.
may not be insured or licensed and just has a magnet
Yeah.
on the side of their truck.
There you go.
Yeah.
Exactly. True.
So we talk about killer compost every time you come on the show, but I feel it's always worth repeating. What is
Yeah.
killer compost? And you had to deal with it personally. What happened?
Yeah. So as gardeners, we have this love affair, as we should, with good aged rotted manure because it's so rich in nutrients and nitrogen, and it's great for the garden. And it's always been a wonderful input into our soil. But when these chemical companies came along and developed these molecules that are so persistent in their chemical applications that farmers put down on their fields to kill weeds, and they're selective, the product that these farmers are using on their, like, hay fields, for example, kill the broadleaf weeds so that when they're harvesting their hay, it's nice and clean because the broadleaf weeds are dead, but the grass is alive. It doesn't kill the grass. So understandably, as a farmer, this could be a good thing for your product. You're able to deliver a clean product that has been sprayed with an herbicide that actually is okay when horses eat something that's been sprayed with this herbicide, because the molecule will not and does not break down inside the horse's digestive system, so there's no harm to the horse. But that is the problem, because that molecule that kills the broadleaf weeds is still completely intact. It has 100% efficacy, which is the term applied to how effective it is, years or many, many months after it's been consumed by the horse, made it out the back end. The manure has been rotted and aged and sitting in a compost pile for a few years, and then a gardener comes along and gets it and puts it in their garden, only to find that because that molecule that was from that herbicide that was put on the field is still viable as an herbicide, it's now in the soil of the gardener, and it can kill many of the plants that a vegetable gardener especially would be having in their garden. It doesn't kill everything, but it's very, very destructive to many common edible plants that we put in our garden. So the scary thing about it is it can do damage to your plants in the single digit parts per billion. And so it doesn't take much of that stuff to really mess up your soil for a few years, as it did mine.
And how did you revert back to, or how did you fix the problem once you saw what was going on?
Yeah, there's really no fixing to that problem. You go on a company's website, like, I can't remember the manufacturers right now, so I'm not going to name a name, but most of them. But you go on their websites and you look up this stuff, and you find out that the only way to neutralize it or make it non-lethal is time, exposing it to UV light, air, and water. So in my case, the way I maybe accelerated it by about a year from what it would have been had I not done these things was I continued to turn my soil over and over and over through the year. I wasn't planting anything into it because there was no point in that. And then the exposure to the air and light and UV, I think probably allowed me to rectify the soil about a year faster than what on average it takes, which is about 5 years.
Understand. What is the biggest garden myth you see people do regardless even they may know it's not really working, and why is it so wrong that they're doing it?
There's a lot of myths out there, and I was thinking about what's one that I can share that's not so offensive or controversial, but is science-based. And so I'm just going to go, as we're coming into the summer, we're coming into planting our holes for our tomato plants. A lot of us get blossom end rot, and that is that nasty blackish, brownish, rotting area at the flower, the bottom end of our tomatoes as they're coming out of the stem of the flower. And you look at that and you go, what is that? And that's blossom end rot. And it's a calcium deficiency in the soil, sort of. the reason why you get this blossom end rot is because the calcium isn't making it up into the plant sufficiently. And that's usually because of inconsistent watering. But forever, the anecdotal recommendation has been, just take your eggshells and throw them into the hole before you plant your tomato, and that'll cure blossom end rot. And in about 5 years' time, those eggshells that you threw in there 5 years prior are now breaking down enough to actually be taken up in the soil, attached to water into the roots, and that helps with some calcium. But there's generally enough calcium in the soil anyway, with or without eggshells, that as long as we are more consistent with how we water, that's how we manage to avoid blossom end rot. It's not throwing eggshells that don't break down or even become available to the plant for 5 years that's solving that problem in year 1, 2, 3, or 4. But if you've been doing this for 5 years or so and you're not getting blossom end rot now, that's probably because of the eggshells that you threw in there 5 years ago. But they literally don't break down. You could dig back into that hole a few years after you put them in there, and those eggshells would be about exactly like they looked when you put them in there.
Right.
Yeah. So that's one. I just hear it continue to be recommended with no clarification that this is not a fix in the first year. And I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm just saying it doesn't work as it's purported to work that quickly. It takes years for it to be available to the plant. It's not a same year thing.
Definitely. So what is one thing that you would redo in your garden, regardless of time or anything, and why would you redo that?
What I would do is I would plant more flowers in my garden sooner. And the reason I say that is we finally got around last year to putting in dedicated beds in our raised bed vegetable garden. Inside the fence line, we had room to put in more raised beds, and we did that exclusively for flowers, because we too want to attract more beneficial insects and predatory insects and have more biodiversity in our garden to help make everything healthy and have a better ecosystem. And, I've got a lot of native flowers around the property, but not right in the garden until last year. And I got to tell you guys, it was like a different world in there after we made a conscientious effort to get those beds built and fill it with flowers. Not only was it beautiful for us to watch every day, but to see the difference from the prior year to last year in the amount of life that was in the garden and the very minimal amount of pest pressure that we even had in the garden last year. I got to say, my garden's been pretty good overall for pests. Just best practices for organic management does that. But last year was the best year ever for that. And it's just a joy. And it was a different feeling, a different look, a more relaxed look. But just to see the noticeable difference of all the activity from the insects and the wildlife that was coming into the garden, along with a reduction in pest pressure, was absolutely noticeable. So it felt really good. And I was like, why did it take me so long? But I'm so food focused and thinking about the crops that I'm growing that I just never stopped long enough. And to the credit of my horticulture manager and farm manager, Toby, she's really good with flowers. And we just decided, now that you're here, I want a lot of your time to be spent really building up the presence of the flowers in the garden. So I am so thankful we finally got around to doing that. And I just never imagined going back and not giving the flowers their due to share that space, not only in the perimeter, but also in the raised beds right there with some of the food crops. That was really cool to do that too.
Understand. In the last 5 years, what would you say has been your best crop in the garden? And do you have an explanation of why it was so good?
I'm gonna put myself in the same camp with anybody else that can do the same thing I did. And that is the cool season crops to me are they're just automatically easier because they're not as sensitive to hot, we do them in the cooler weather, and the cooler weather is more conducive to plant growth for many of the plants that we put in our fall garden, the edibles, that is. So I'm going to say spinach and kale because they're leafy crops. We're not depending on them to put on a big cauliflower head or broccoli head or Brussels sprouts up the stalk, hopefully by Thanksgiving, which never down here happens. But I have watched my spinach and my kale go through. Now, granted, I live in Atlanta, not, where you guys are in Wisconsin, but it overwinters so beautifully that you don't have to worry about it dying because it's cold outside, and it gets better when it's cold. It gets sweeter, and it's not susceptible to pest pressure until the following year when you're coming into late spring and the aphids decide that they want to eat some of your kale. Until then, it's the most carefree, hands-off plants I grow in my garden. And it's not really anything that special that I do. It's something anybody could do. But we need some of those rewards. We work so hard in our gardens and fight those fights every day. We have to give credit and appreciation to those plants that really cut us a break, and they're delicious too. And so I will always grow kale and spinach in my garden because of their forgiveness under all kinds of pressure. They're just amazing, and they're delicious and healthy. So that's my answer.
Fantastic. Well, we really enjoyed having you on the program and all of your great information. How can people find out more about you and your program?
Yeah. Well, joegardner.com would be the hub for the links out to everything else. That's the website, and lots of podcast links and articles to everything we've posted. And then YouTube, as you mentioned in the tease, the Growing a Greener World television series, which has 12 series over 12 years and over 200 episodes. It is now going to be available in its entirety, all 12 seasons, all episodes we've ever done, our entire library, on our YouTube channel, GGW TV. And that started today with season 1. We rolled out the entire season 1, which is 26 episodes today. Wow. And we'll continue to do that each week until we get all 12 seasons rolled out.
Well, Joe, we greatly appreciate the time and your information, and not only educating Holly, myself, but all of our listeners. We thank you for that.
Happy to do it. Thank you.
Absolutely. And when we come back, it's Your Garden Questions, Our Garden Answers. You're tuned in to the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show.
Got a question for Joey and Holly? Send it via email anytime to gardentalkradio@gmail.com.
Deer Defeat is an all-natural based animal repellent to keep deer and rabbits away from your valuable plants that is odorless after 30 minutes and dries clear. It creates a continuous, invisible shield to protect your plants. Works for 30 days through rain, snow, and freeze. Will not clog your sprayer. Apply to your property without environmental damage. You can spray directly onto your plants up to flowering, then apply around your plants to continue protection. No need to reapply. Money back guarantee. To purchase, go to deerdefeat.com and use coupon code RADIO to save 10% off your order.
Blue Ribbon Organics, providing locally made organic compost and soil blends for gardeners, farms, landscaping, and more. To find our products nearest you, visit blueribbonorganics.com.
Happy 65th anniversary to David J. Frank, Southeastern Wisconsin's leading landscape company. Their award-winning services include everything from lawn care, landscape maintenance, design, construction, renovation, irrigation, sustainability, and more. Big or small, let the experts at David J. Frank handle the hard work for you. Find out more at davidjfrank.com. Are you bugged by bugs? You need naturally green products, No More Bugs, environmentally friendly. Made in the USA, No More Bugs is a cedar blend that repels and eliminates mosquitoes, no-see-ums, ticks, fleas, roaches, ants, and more. No More Bugs is safe for you, your pets, and plants. Available online at nomorebugs.net, Amazon, Walmart.com, and the Home Shopping Network. Take the guesswork out of composting with the AeroBin 400 or smaller 200 for easy composting. The AeroBin mimics how nature decomposes waste. The AeroBin is easy to use. You prepare your balanced organic waste. Just open it up, drop it in, and close. After a short time, fertile compost is produced, which is easily accessed via the lower side door. The thermal insulation in the AeroBin conserves heat, leading to rapid breakdown of the biomass, and works efficiently year-round, even in cooler regions. There is no need to turn the biomass, and it is pet and rodent resistant. It has little odor and can kill annoying weeds and seeds. It is BPA-free. The Aerobin 400 or 200 comes with a reservoir at the bottom to collect the leachate. When diluted, makes for great compost tea liquid fertilizer. Aerobin composts kitchen and garden waste quickly. Easy to assemble with no special tools needed. The Aerobin makes composting rewarding and easy. Go to Costco.com to purchase. Make watering easy. DripWorks provides quality drip irrigation supplies and equipment to gardeners just like you for all your growing needs across the U.S. and Canada. Purchase online at dripworks.com. Wind River chimes will always be the inspiring harmony. With a large selection and customization options, you will find the sound that soothes you. Visit windriverchimes.com to shop and find out more.
Welcome back to the Garden with Joy and Holly radio show. Time for your garden questions, our garden answers. You got a question, send it on over to gardentalkradio@gmail.com. That's gardentalkradio@gmail.com. Or give us a call anytime, toll free, coast to coast at 1-800-927-SHOW. That's 1-800-927-7469.
So, how is the best way to store rutabagas? Do you store them like you would a potato, or do you store them in moist sand?
Well, we've never done the sand aspect of it. What we have found is keep it in the crisper of the fridge, and it will keep for a much longer time than what you might think. Obviously, the larger the rutabaga, the better it is, the longer it's going to keep. Now, when you go to the store, you'll see that they are coated with a wax, and that's helped to hold the moisture in. We don't necessarily, as home gardeners, want to or need to wax it, but keeping it in the crisper of a fridge is the better way. Also, you can also blanch and freeze them.
Yeah, just don't microwave them.
Don't microwave them, yeah. Okay, can I use seeds shown as a sale date that is past or expired?
You can. So unlike packaged food, seeds don't have an expiration date. It's just like a federal seed act requires the seed packets to have it packed for a year. And typically what happens is, so that shows how old the seeds are.
And they have to be sold that calendar, or by the end of that calendar year because of the government. Blah,
blah, blah.
Add your, whatever to that.
So anyway, seeds lose about 10% viability germination rate every year. So if you bought seeds this year, the next year, if you planted 10 seeds, one might not sprout. And then next year after that, if you planted 10 seeds, two might not sprout.
Well, example, we had celery seeds from 2013. It's 2024 now. None of them came up.
Right. Well, and also the larger the seed, the more likely it is to germinate. Correct. Because it has more girth, meat, I don't know, whatever to it.
Material inside
of it. Yeah. And all seeds have a seed coat, and then they have the inner part. So even if it's super, super tiny, they still have a seed coat in the inner part. So that could be why.
All right. Question here about hardening off. My question is, when they come back in after you've taken them out, do they go back under the grow lights as scheduled that I've set up, or that they turn on at 7:30 a.m. and turn off at 10:30 p.m., or do I place them in a south-facing window? Thanks.
Yeah, so
either or. I would continue to put them underneath the grow light until you are able to adapt them or acclimate them. That's the process of hardening a plant off from bringing them inside to outside over the course of a period of mostly 7 days. And by that seventh day, it has worked its way from shade to partial shade to full sun to stay out overnight, and then you plant it in the garden the next day. When you bring it in on those early days, day 1, day 2, day 3, you can put it back under the grow light to make sure it gets adequate sunlight or adequate light. You would only need 10 to 12 hours. I don't think you need to go from 7:30 to 11:30. Giving that plant too much light can also change its thinking process of overexposure of light, and then it grows not the way you want it to. It doesn't grow the way it's scheduled to grow if it was naturally outside, with the progression of the daylight getting slightly longer each day. So, but also putting in a south-facing window or a bright window, that's fine as well. But you have to harden your plants off. That is the key to getting them to properly grow. And if you don't do it, you're going to kill your plant. Now, if you buy plants...
If you buy it from a garden center or wherever you buy your local plants, you don't have to harden them off. They're ready to go.
Yeah. Well, with that being said, Holly, it's time for What Did You Learn Today?
You have to go first.
I knew eggshells took, I thought, about 18 to 24 months. Joe Lampo informed us and taught us that it takes about 5 years for an eggshell to break down for usable calcium under the tomato when all you really need to do is water.
Yes. I learned that you shouldn't top trees. I knew that, but I guess I relearned it, and also
The severity of what it was.
the severity. Yeah, that's basically what it was, the absolute severity of that.
Well, what we learned today is brought to you by honeybeehealthy.com.
Whether you're a gardener, a bee hobbyist, or a professional beekeeper, Honey Bee Healthy Inc. has the products to help you maintain a healthy hive and thriving garden. For more information on how to use Honey Bee Healthy in your garden, visit honeybeehealthy.com. That's honey, the letter B, healthy.com.
Tune in next week to the program where we'll be discussing garden protection, predominantly from bees or from bad bugs and animals. Possibly humans as well. And fruit trees. Our guest is author Christina Chung will be with us, and we'll answer your garden questions. That's next week on the program. So until next week, for
Holly Baird,
I'm Joy Baird, and we will see you in the garden.